Hey guys, welcome back to the Geography Academy. Remember, this video is just a small part of a much larger course that's available below if you just follow the links and instructions. This unit we're covering hot desert systems and landscapes for AQA geography. We're going to look at 4 different sections here. We have the hot desert environment and their margins, just looking where it's actually found and why it's located in those places around the world. 2 is the systems and processes in hot deserts, so looking after things like weathering and wind erosion. And then we'll be able to apply what we learn in section 2 into section 3, which is arid landscapes and desertification. So all 4 then into desertification, and that's where we'll find some of our main bigger case studies there. Right, the desert landscape then can be quite different in different regards. So we can have maybe sand dunes, or we can have rocky outcrops. We can have areas that are maybe semi-arid and actually get a lot of precipitation at certain times of year, but it's limited. We can see vegetation that's grown here in these harsh environments that are especially adapted to this type of climate. So it's an amazing area and covers a large portion of the world. Now, when we look at all of these areas, not everything will fall under the hot desert systems. So what we'd be looking for is the BWH and the BSH. So looking at the areas there, we can see that it's arid in the dark red and the darker orange. So those regions are usually beside each other. If you have a look, they're usually, the orange one is bordering the red one. So the BWH and the BWS bordering each other there. So these are the main areas that we'll be studying, and we'll focus less then on these higher altitude, these dry areas, these dry arid areas up in this region. The focus then on the main region then, the arid desert that is classified as hot. This is the Köppen classification, by the way, so this is how we would divide up different climate zones based on their characteristics. So here we have arid, the fact that it's going to be dry and hot as the 2 main conditions there. So this is the main regions where we'll study. We'll see we have areas in North and South America, Africa, Asia, and Australasia down there in Oceania. Now, these connecting areas are often quite vast, the biggest being in the Sahara Desert in the middle of Africa here. And we can see that they're sort of found equal distance or close to the equator, and some becoming quite close to the equator along this area here. So we can see areas then that do get seasonal precipitation. Some grasslands then can develop in these areas, as we can see here. Now, if you were in this area in a different part of the year, so we can see actually puddles and everything down here, different time of the year, then that grass might have died off for a prolonged period of time, but then it grows back. A lot of the trees could be drought resistant as well in this area. This creates an arid steppe or hot area, and yeah, we would see that it's very much connected to the other regions that we just had a look at there on the borders usually. So these are regions that receive a little bit of precipitation, and the areas that receive even less precipitation than that are found in this map here. So they're pretty close to each other, and there's similar influences on both of them. So some of the primary ones that we're going to look at here would be the Arabian, Namib, Kalahari, Sahara. Over in the Americas, we would look at the Mojave, maybe the Great Basin, the Atacama down in South America, and then there's the Great Sandy, the Gibson, and Great Victorian over in Australia. The Turkestan and Gobi Desert then will be outside of our spec for this case studies and this particular study. Now, if we wanted to look at the different levels of aridity, we would look at the aridity index. This is a study looking at the precipitation divided down by the potential evapotranspiration. So the potential evapotranspiration then is looking at the amount of moisture that's available to be evaporated in the area. This classification then allows us to categorize the different regions into hyperarid, arid, semi-arid, dry subhumid, and humid climates. From there, we can acknowledge the different regions and what we find in those regions. The 2 we'll be focused on then is hot desert and some areas of semi-arid, which is including the Sahara, Arabian Desert, Mojave, and maybe part of Thar Desert. Semi-arid then is Sahel, Great Plains, Deccan Plateau in India. Now, these regions then have different amount of days with precipitation as well. So we can see hot desert having less than 250 millimeters per year. And if you've had a look in the other units and we saw the climate graph for a tropical rainforest, that can extend up to being 250 millimeters or more per month. On the other side there, we have desert margins then around those regions. We have much higher precipitation, maybe up to double the amount in the hot desert areas, and this is often seasonal. So if we're just having a quick look here at potential examples, we can look at the climate graph. Again, the orange line graph in the climate graph is going to show us the temperature in degrees Celsius, and the bar graph that's with it is showing the precipitation in each of those bars. We can see it across the months of the year and measured in millimeters for precipitation and degrees Celsius for temperature. Now, the drier areas are the ones with the reduced monthly precipitation. So we can see that Cairo receives a lot less precipitation than Phoenix in Arizona. So in Cairo, we see a slight amount of precipitation, but it's only getting up to about 5 to 10 millimeters. Well, it's not really going above 6 in this case. And then we can see it's almost nothing for June to September. So this is showing hyper-arid areas then that receive very little precipitation year-round, and we can also see that the monthly temperature then increases at different parts of the year, getting on high. And remember, this is the average, including the nighttime daytime difference. This would be the average temperatures, not the highest. So we see it reaching 25 to 30 degrees Celsius in the hotter months, and then all the way down to just below 15 there, so in around like 13 degrees Celsius for their coldest months of December and January. So on the other side, we see Phoenix, Arizona, and in this one, we would see that there is significantly more precipitation, some months reaching up to 30 millimeters, and this spanning over several months. But we can see they do incur a dry period between April and June. This is a very dry period, and then suddenly there's a dramatic increase again to it. So both of them are considered then arid environments, but there is quite a big difference between them in terms of precipitation. Then Phoenix also goes through similar differences to Cairo. As we can see, there's a large rise in the summer months in temperature, and then the temperature drops back down to about 12 to 11 to 12 at its lowest. These type of extreme climates then, where we see very high temperatures on average, some fluctuations in seasonal change,